Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending the SAS Afternoon Forum on the topic Communication for Actuaries, an introduction on how to increase the impact of your communication with your business partners. I am YY, the Afternoon Forum Coordinator from the Education and Career Committee of SAS, and I will be the moderator of today's training. Before we start the training session, I would like to thank our speaker, Caroline, for volunteering her time to teach and share with us today. I would also like to thank SAS Secretariat and our sponsor, China Re, for making this afternoon forum possible. SAS is thankful for China Re for supporting us during unprecedented times like this. The sponsored funds will allow SAS to continue to conduct conferences, events, and forums this year. If you have any questions during the session, please post them on the Q&A function on your Zoom screen. Caroline will answer your questions after her presentation. If you can't find the Q&A function, feel free to use the chat function to speak to me, and I will guide you on how to access that function. Without further ado, let me introduce Caroline. Having grown up in Canada, Caroline is a former figure skater who believes she still can do a sit spin and an arabesque. It's better if you ask her to sing O Sole Mio or something from the Phantom of the Opera. Preferring the sun, she is now based in Portugal after years in Germany and in Sweden. Living and working in international environments is part of her DNA. Caroline understands the world of actuaries after 20 plus years of experience in the insurance, reinsurance, actuarial, and risk management fields. She held different leadership positions, most recently as head of operational risk and risk reporting for the Hannover Re Group in Germany. As business coach and speaker, she accompanies actuaries, risk managers, and executives in the insurance and reinsurance industry on their way to the top. With a natural way of empowering others, she makes sure that her clients grow and thrive. Today, she uses her expertise to demonstrate how you can improve the impact of your communication. You'll be able to apply easily what she teaches so that your message is clear, your audience understands it, and your objectives are met. You'll be on your road to greater success. Caroline is an accomplished trainer on the communication course of the German Actuarial Society. She has also collaborated with various actuarial associations during the last years. Caroline is an associate member of the Swedish Actuarial Society and is fluent in English, French, German, and Swedish. May I present you, Caroline.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, YY, for this great introduction. Thank you also to the board of the SAS for inviting me to present on the topic of communication, how you can increase the impact of your communication. I love to work with people who are motivated and engaged, people who want to reach the next level of success, because you want your results to be understood. You want your ideas to be heard. You want to obtain the next promotion because you matter and your work matters too. Now I will share my screen with you. So as you already saw, I want you to get the most out of this training session, and I would rather like to call it a conversation because you can send your questions while I'm talking. I'll do my best to answer while I'm talking. If I miss it, I will answer in the end though. So I'll ask you to minimize the distraction so that you can maximize your attention. And for that, I'll ask you to take pen and paper because you will have to write something and have something to be hydrated, like a simple glass of water, or it can be a tea or maybe a coffee. I'm not so sure about cocktails. You decide, you're an adult. Also, if in your room you have an animal that is quiet, maybe it's fine, but if it's moving everywhere, you may want to bring this animal somewhere else. And please turn off any thing that makes noise, like the TV or the radio or even your mobile phone. So that you're here on a Friday afternoon, it shows that you have the motivated to bring your work to the next level of success. Still, it is Friday afternoon, which means it's the end of the week. And if I would be in a room with you in person, I would get the vibe of that room. You know, I would know, oh, they are very tired, or they are excited because the weekend is coming, or it's kind of a mix between the two of them. I would know that. Now I'm alone in my living room and I don't see anybody. I don't get a vibe. I'm sorry, but I want to get one. I want to know, what is your energy level as a group here? So just imagine that you have an inner battery, like a battery, you know, in your phone. And this battery, well, you can charge it. You charge it at night when you have a good night's sleep, or when you eat good food, or maybe when you take a nice walk, have fun with friends. At the same time, the battery loses power when you don't sleep well, when you're very stressed, when maybe you work too much. So imagine, you know, scan your inner battery right now and think about, where are you? How full is that battery? You know, it's in percent. Are you at maybe 75% or 35% or somewhere in between? Write that number down. And now we will start with the first poll question. How full is your battery? I think now you can see this. How full is it? Between 80 and 100%, 60, 80, 40, 60, 20, 40, 0, 20. It's somewhere, majority, many people between 40 and 80 in the end. Still people are choosing their answers. How full is your battery? How full is your battery? So far, 38% between 40 and 60. 80% have voted. I'll wait a few seconds more. 81% now have voted. Yeah, now I will stop the poll question and you can see the results. I hope so. So you see that 13% have an energy level between 80 and 100%, 33, 1/3 between 60 and 80%. That's quite good, I think. And actually, I'm around there as well. I'm at like 70, 75%. Then 36% between 40 and 60. I think it's normal for Friday afternoon. And we have 10% who have between 20 and 40%, and 9% who have an energy level between 0 and 20%. So these 9% here, we have answer between 0 and 20%. I'm very happy that you're here. I'm happy that you're all here. And I will suggest that especially you between 0 and 20%, you have a nice weekend after my presentation. So thank you so much for that. So now I get a feeling of how, of the vibe in the room. And did you know that axioms are not only used in mathematics, not only used in the mathematical world? Axiom, A-X-I-O-M-S. In fact, axioms are also used in the communication theory. And they were defined by an American-Austrian psychologist and communication theorist called Paul Watzlawick. And he defined a set of 5 axioms. I will just speak about 2 of them to start with, just that we get in the beat of communication. And the first one is, the first axiom that he defined is, one cannot not communicate. That is, that every behavior is a form of communication. Even if you're not talking, it's also a form of communication. And one example would be like this. I didn't say anything, but you all knew, oh, she looks sad, maybe she's even tired, she doesn't want to speak with anybody, she doesn't want to have contact, she just decided to get out of this world for a little while. So I didn't say anything, still I communicated. So keep this in mind. One cannot not communicate. And I will ask you 2 questions that you can reflect on, that you should write down, and you can reflect on in the next days to come about that. One cannot not communicate. And first question is, what do you communicate with your absence of action? When you do nothing, when you decide to do nothing, when you decide to turn your back to somebody, when there's no movement, what do you communicate in the absence of action? Very interesting. It's a little bit philosophical. We'll come to more practical stuff. Don't worry. The second question is, it's even more interesting. What are you telling yourself and your colleagues when you are quiet and not expressing your ideas? What are you telling yourself and your colleagues when you are quiet and not expressing your ideas? That's a really good question. Give it a thought. So they are good questions to reflect on, maybe later tonight, maybe during the weekend. And I'll go to the second axiom that says, every communication has a content aspect and a relationship aspect. And the relationship aspect determines the content aspect. This means that we respond to the content of a communication in the context of the relationship that we have with the other person. Very simply said, it means that if we don't get along well with somebody, or if we have a conflict with someone, it will be nearly impossible to agree on technical matters. Now, I don't know if you have already, if you once experienced email ping pong. You know, you copied in many emails between 2 colleagues who just keep on sending emails to each other. They don't speak to each other, they just send emails, ping pong, and they never seem to agree on anything. Well, you can guess that they, on a personal level, they don't get along very well, that they don't like each other so much. And we like to believe that because we are actuaries, we work in the business world, that everything that we do is objective, it's rational, it's rather neutral. No. Not when you work in the context of an organization. We are always surrounded by people. So these relationships, they are very important, even if we believe, well, they're not so important. More important is my work, my numbers, and so on. If you want to make an impact with your communication, you have to be aware of that that relationship is very important. And thinking about this second axiom about the relationship and the content aspects, there are two questions that I would like you to reflect on. And the first one is, are the words you're choosing proper for the context and for the people who are present? You know, if you're with your best friend and he does something a little bit stupid and you say, you're such an idiot, it's okay. But if the same thing happens and there are other people around who don't know you, they will be a little bit like maybe, oh, what's going on? Or if you say to somebody you don't know very well, oh, you're such an idiot, of course it depends on the context and so on, it will not, he or she will not like it if you don't know each other very well. It's the same word, oh, you're such an idiot, but it can be interpreted differently depending on the relationship. And the second question here, are you even aware of the relationship aspects within your communication? When you write an email, when you write a report, when you make a presentation or speak during a meeting, are you aware of that relationship aspect? So I leave it to these two axioms for today, as they form a good basis for what we will see later on. So maybe you can relate, you do relate to the fact that numbers are best friends and words should be kept to kind of a minimum. Still, you need to present your results, your findings, your ideas, and your report. And it's easy to believe that because you said it during the meeting, because you mentioned it in your email, because you wrote it in your report, because it was the topic of your last presentation. It's easy to believe because you mentioned something that it will automatically have an impact. No, no, no. It's not enough to think my message is out. It's out in the universe. Somebody will, it will get on the head of somebody who will get it. It's not enough to think it's out. The message needs to get into the heads and into the hearts of those who receive your message. And as the sender of the message, you are responsible to make sure that your message gets in. Because if your message doesn't get in, it won't have an impact and you won't be able to reach a certain level of success with your communication. So keep in mind, this is very, very important. The message needs to get in, not out. Into the heads and into the hearts of those who receive your message. So now I'll come to the second poll question and I will ask you, what's your biggest problem when it comes to communicating your findings, your results, and your ideas to non-actuaries, of course, in a work context? So I'll start it again. Poll number 2. You have 6 different choices. Take the one that you think is most appropriate or describes best your biggest problem in communication. 64% have voted. 65. Takes a while to read them all. 69. 73. 78. Good, it's moving. 80. We'll see if it moves more. If you feel like that your biggest problem was not written, one thing you could do, you could use the chat function and just write to me and tell me what's your biggest problem if you cannot find yours here. So we have 80% have voted. It has been stable for a while, so I will stop the poll and I will show you the results. And it's kind of mixed. I mean, with 39% on the first spot, we have, I find details important and it's difficult for me to make a summary of my analysis. As actuary, we tend to like everything that we do, all the small details. I know that it's difficult to get to the next level, to get to the summary level. After that, we have, with 30%, my nerves are a big problem when I hold a presentation. You know, this public speaking is one of the biggest stress moments for many, many people, so it's normal. After we have 24%, they don't understand even if I explain over and over again. At the same position, we have, I'm not sure that my ideas and calculations can make an impact. And with 21%, I don't dare to jump in with my opinion during a meeting, and 14% time is often against me. You have a lot to do, I know about that. So thank you very much for that. I get a better idea of what your problem is when you're working with your communication. So I'll stop this and I will continue here. So that's why it's important to think about who you communicate to, you know, who is your audience? Who are the stakeholders that you communicate to? Oh, my presentation is not really moving. Let's see now. So maybe you have different target groups you often communicate to and quite regularly. Or maybe you know that soon you will work more with a specific stakeholder group because you're starting a new job. And a condition to communicate your content efficiently is, of course, to build a good relationship with that audience. We saw it before. The relationship influences the content. So it's of utmost importance that you know and you understand your audience. And for that, we'll do an exercise. So it's time to take pen and paper for that. And think about a presentation or an email or a report that you are preparing or that you just started to prepare, that you did a while ago, or that you will do soon in the future. And I will have 6 questions for you to answer on your paper. And this is part of your preparation. And it's for understanding your audience better. And the first one is, who is your audience? Profession, maybe title is relevant, experience, maybe age, where are they in the hierarchy, and their background. Who is your audience? If you think about this specific situation. this specific communication that you are preparing. As a second question, I have, how good do you know them? How good do you know your audience? You know, on a scale from 0 to 10. If you realize that it's kind of a 4, you know, I mean, 10 here would mean that you know them so well, you're meeting them every day, you have coffee with them regularly and so on. You've known them for a long time. But if you have a 4 or less, I think it would be good for you to start getting to know them a little bit better. And if you think, oh, it's 0 because I've never met them and I don't know them and so on, try to get to know them. Ask people who work with them before. You know, make some research beforehand to bring that grade up. The third question is, what level of actuarial knowledge do they have from 0 to 10? I mean, 10 would be they are actuaries as well, and 0 is like they know nothing about numbers. So from 0 to 10, what level of actuarial knowledge does your audience have? And be careful here, because we tend to assume that mathematical formulas and symbols and numbers are understood and are liked by the vast majority, but it's not the case. Many people get afraid when they see a mathematical symbol, when they see a formula, when they see one number or big numbers. And sometimes we use technical vocabulary, and even what we think is easy, like present value, everybody knows, it can sound very like a complex topic for somebody who has never heard it, or maybe only once and thought, I don't want to have anything to do with that. So make sure that you know what you can use. Because if you make somebody afraid and saying, as an example, present value, and you see that they're almost lean back and like, I'm afraid, they won't continue listening to you. They will stop there. So you will have kind of lost it. So be aware of that what is normal for you is not normal for a non-actuary. Number 4, the question is, what do you want to give as an impression? And here I have like 2 criteria. One is likable and one is credible. I will explain a little bit what I mean here. We are human beings, and when we meet people for the first time, we kind of scan them. We do this rather unconsciously, sometimes consciously. And in these first 5 to 7 seconds, we think about 2 criteria: credible, not credible, somewhere on this axis, and likable, not likable, somewhere on the axis. These are the 2 criteria that we scan people with right away. And so the first time you're going to meet people, this is what they will do. So you have to think a little bit, what kind of an impression do you want to give? Do you want to be more likable or more credible? And of course, you will tell me, Caroline, you know, in a work context, I want to appear as credible. And I agree with that. I agree with that. The opposite would be a bit strange. Still, you can smile a bit, be kind of likable as well. The other thing, which could happen, it would be maybe very rare, but let's say that you are invited to a policyholder presentation. You are Chief Actuary, and in the agenda, it's written Caroline Grégoire, comma, Chief Actuary. So from that agenda, you are credible. And you know you will meet policyholders who probably have a level of actuarial knowledge of 1 or 2. So maybe they know that you're credible. So, and they may be afraid and with, oh my God, an actuary is coming to talk to us. So you may want to appear in your appearance and the impression that you may be more likable than credible because you're already credible from the agenda. So how do you do that? How do you kind of do this with credible and likable? Of course, if you know the people already, this you may not have to think about it so much, but I think that it's very important to know that. So if you want to appear more credible, you will play with your body language and you will have a still body language. You will maybe have your hands more like this when you explain something. Now I'm putting my hands very close to my face so you see them. If I would be in a real life meeting, I would not put my hands here. I would put them maybe here, but you would not see them. It would be more like this. Your head would be still. Your body as well would be still and clean and structured and stable. If, on the other hand, you want to appear more likable, you would have maybe your hands like this. It's different. And you could, maybe your head would be a little bit bent, maybe your hip a little bit, your shoulders, that would be a little bit different. So you can test these two things. So question number 5, what actuarial terms do you need to use or to explain to these people? If you're thinking again about this situation, this email you're preparing, this presentation or this report, what are the actuarial terms that you need to use and those that you need to explain? And as number 6, you will only write platinum rule because we'll come back to it later. So just write platinum rule, leave it blank for right now. So these items, they help you to understand your audience better. And it's part of an excellent preparation for any piece of communication. So we will play a little bit. Imagine that you prepare yourself for a first impression. And usually I do this exercise in the room. I ask that people speak with their neighbor first, and then they exchange their mobile phone. And it works like that. You put your phone on a selfie mode, and you make a short video of yourself. It's gonna last only 15 seconds. Don't worry, only you will see the video. And you say 3 very simple things. Hello, my name is, I grew up in, and a city I would like to visit is whatever. So I will do it for me. Now I have a little problem with my phone. I have to say it just got updated for whatever reasons. So I will do as if I do the exercise, otherwise it's gonna take too long. So selfie mode. My name is Carolyn. I come from Montreal, and a city I would love to go to again is Bangkok. It's been a while, and I'm looking forward to my next trip there. Stop. I invite you to do the same. It will look strange, maybe. I invite you, even if English is not your native language, to do it in your native language, because it will be more natural for you. Do it, and please have a look at it again. Don't forget to watch it. I'm not going to ask you to share it with anybody. It's your own video. What grade would you give to this video? This I'm interested in. And that is the next fall. What grade from 0 to 10 would you give to your first impression video? I'll start this right away. Maybe it's not everybody who did the exercise. 39% have voted, 40. 46. 49, 50. 56. 59. Pretty stable now. 60. 'll give it a few seconds more. 66, 67. 67 is pretty stable. So I will stop the poll here. I will show you the results. So 42% of those who have answered, close to 50%, they have a grade of 5 to 6% of their first impression video. It's usually the answer that I get quite often. I mean, this whole, these results here, they look very much what I usually observe. After that, we have 32% who give themselves a grade between 7 and 8. That's very good. And we have 4% who say mine is professional, it's between 9 and 10. 19% between 3 and 4, and 4% on the other side then of 0 to 2, a grade of 0 to 2. So if you have, you know, I'm sure you want to improve your video because it's the first impression that you give, because this is what people see on screen. And nowadays we see people only on screen, you know, in this little frame like you see me now. So identify in your video, identify what you don't like, practice to improve what you don't like. At the same time, I want to say, learn to like yourself on video, because you don't have the choice. Thank you very much for that. Now I will go to my next slide, and I called it, and it fits well to what we were speaking about, being on video, being on screen. Is online equal offline? question mark. Of course it's not. Still, there are items where when I say, yes, it's the same thing. And we'll come to them. So, online equal offline? No. The camera. You know, when we meet people live, we don't have a camera in between. So what happens? We see ourselves all the time. We see others in a very small frame, or we see nobody, like right now. I don't see any of you. So make sure that people see you well. Be careful of the light. I'll come to that later. With your eye line, when you speak with the people, you have to speak in the camera like I'm doing most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time. We're tempted to look at ourselves. Oh, this is how I look like. Okay, okay. Or we'll look at how the others look like, which is a little bit normal because in a normal room, we would look around. So, but to make a good contact, you have to look in the camera. It's a bit strange. Also, with your eye line, if you split this little frame in 3 parts, in 3/3, try to make sure that your eyes are on the line between the first third and the second third. That's always what I'm trying to look at. Sometimes I move a little bit forward or I move backward, but I try to keep my eyes on that invisible line between the first third and the second third. If you want to give people clues, you can use your gesture a little bit higher than you usually do, and make sure that the space behind you is neat and clean. The lights, what happens is the contrasts are often too much, or sometimes it's too dark, sometimes you don't see people. And the light ideally should come from in front of you. Try to avoid light coming from behind you or from the sides, because then you will appear, there will be many shadows. And ideally a nice soft diffused daylight. This is what I have here, my place. I have daylight coming from outside. It's a huge door, a huge window I have in front of me, so it's perfect. I don't have to use any other light. What you can do if you have your mobile phone, on your mobile phone, you can buy a little clip like this and put it on your mobile phone and turn it on. This is very good for the mobile phone. For the laptop, I've tried it a few times. It's not so good. What you can do for a little money, you can buy a ring light. There are small ones that are about 15 centimeters wide. They are on a tripod, and you can put this just behind your laptop. Or you can buy a big ring light. I have one myself when I sometimes do videos, because if I do videos at night, I don't have the daylight now then. You can make a check before a meeting. You can go on Zoom yourself if you have an account. Just start a meeting, you're alone, and you can move around with your device, move around in the room and see where can I be seen best to check the effect of the light. Then we have audio. Audio. I've heard that, especially at the beginning of the lockdown, when people had meetings over meetings over meetings virtually, they said, my voice is tired. I don't feel like I speak more, but my voice is more tired. And I think that one thing is because we concentrate so much on the camera, on looking in the camera, that at the same time we believe we have to speak in the camera, while we just have to speak with the microphone. Ideally, have a microphone close to your mouth. I have just a little thing here. You can have something much more professional as well. You can have headphones that block off any external noise. And don't scream. Be nice to your vocal cords. People can turn on the volume. Of course, you need to speak clearly. You need to speak maybe a little bit slower than usually if you want your voice to move properly, because there's a delay as well. Then, yeah, online is not really offline when we think about the body posture, body language, because we only see faces, we don't really see the whole body. It's kept to a minimum, and the gestures are also kept at a minimum. So the eyes are a good indicator. The facial expression, I guess we will become very, very good at reading facial expressions after we will have seen each other only on video in small frames. You can observe the position of the head and of the shoulder. You know, if somebody is sitting like this, or somebody is like listening like this, you will realize how attentive they are. You can listen to the voice. If somebody's speaking really, really fast, then you can realize maybe they are nervous. And if you want to, you can engage with questions or with polls to just see how people react. For me, what's very difficult with online is the sitting, just sitting all the time in front of a computer. And it can lead to Zoom fatigue, maybe you know that. So some very easy solution, you need to take break in between Zoom sessions, please do so. You can alternate between sitting and between standing. I mean, if you have a height adjustable table, that's perfect because you can alternate. I would have preferred to stand actually doing this presentation, but you would have seen me even smaller than you see me, and I would have appeared too far away from you, I guess. So I decided, okay, I will sit, I will look nicely in the camera, and I thought for a little bit more than 1 hour I can sit, it's fine. Move during your break. I mean, walk, jump, stretch, run, whatever. I don't know if you know that Tony Robbins, before he goes on stage, he jumps on a trampoline for like 5 minutes just to get the energy. And very important as well, because we always look in the camera like this. You have to rest your eyes. You have to train the muscle of your eyes to be able to look far away again. So sometimes look out just to train your eyes. Otherwise, you always look at something that is like 30 to 40 centimeters in front of you, and it's not good for your eyes. So online is equal to offline when it's about good behavior, be on time, be present and attentive, be polite. When it's about dress code, if you know that the in-person meeting would have been formal, then you need to dress formally. And here I want to say, just be careful about the bottom part. Make sure if you keep on your pajamas, make sure that you don't have to move in front of the camera. If you don't have to speak, you can put yourself on mute to avoid the distractions from the voice. You have the same clarity in your voice and in your statement, whether you're online or offline. So I'm very interested to know how many video calls do you have on average during one day? So I'll start another poll here because I'm very interested to know that. How many video calls do you have on average during a day? %63 have voted. 65. 69. 73. 73 is pretty stable, so I will stop the poll and I will show you the results. So more than 50%, actually 57% say that on average you have 1 to 2 video calls a day. That's pretty okay. It's pretty human, I think. 25%, 1/4 say they have 3 to 4. Make sure you take breaks in between. 11% say between 5 and 6. I guess you have experienced Zoom fatigue. Be careful. And 7% say 7 or more. It depends also on the job you're doing, for sure. But just make sure that you move, that you're doing well with that still. Now we'll go to an exercise again. I have a question for you. So you take pen and paper, and I will give you like 2 minutes to write down your answer to the question, how does your office look like? Whether you're thinking about your office at home or the one at your employer's premises. How does your office look like? I give you like 2 minutes to write this down. Thank you for that. Now maybe you were thinking that I would ask somebody to read that, or that I would be interested to know if your office is ideally organized for a virtual meeting, but it's not about that. There can be here two styles of answers. And the thing is, it's not about what, it's about how this description was made. And maybe you wrote something like, in my office, the walls are white. I have a desk and a chair belonging to it, and also have another table where we can have meetings. And there's a big window and I can look out on the street. If your description is in that style, we kind of have an idea of how your office looks like, but we don't know all the details. So if we were from the description, we would all make a picture of it. We would make a picture that corresponds to your description, but our pictures would all look differently because it's a bit vague. So somebody who with this question, who answered in this way, uses what we call the pattern overview. And people who use the overview pattern, they use words like, you can recognize that by what they say about why they write. They say purpose, summary, concept, idea. They will say the most important is, they will use simple sentences, and the information they give you is not really in a specific order. Maybe though, your answer was more in the style, in my office, when you get in, 3 meters away from the door, I have a black desk. Behind the desk, I have a black chair. Behind that, I have a big window. I can look at everybody walking on the street. Next to my desk, on the left side, when you look from the entrance, I have a meeting table that is height adjustable. So if we want to, we can stand. And if we sit, I have 3 tables that belong to 3 chairs that belong to that table. This is a little bit, this is another kind of description. We get more details here. And this is somebody who, in the context of that question, used the communication pattern details. When people speak and they use the detail communication pattern, they will say something like exact. We will hear specific. We will hear many adjectives and adverbs. The names of places will be the correct and exact names. It's concrete information, and often this information is linear. Maybe your description was a mix of both of that. And whether you use or your audience uses the overview or the detailed communication pattern depends on the situation. It does not necessarily depend on the person. And what these patterns they tell us, this is how we process information in a specific situation. And how we process information, this is how we want to be communicated to, because this is how we can be reached best. So think about that. And to kind of know, do they use the overview or the details? Listen at how people speak. Listen all the time. Or read their emails. If somebody writes to you, I want to have a summary on your results, you give them a summary of the results. You don't give them the details. It's difficult. But if they write summary, you give a summary, because this is how they tick in that situation, and this is what in the end they also want to have. So I know that this is hard, and we saw it also before, that many people have problems with that, to summarize. It's difficult because you've worked hard, you maybe use different models, various assumptions, you work for weeks on a project, and then you know in the end you will have 20 minutes to present this to the board. You cannot speak about details. One thing you can do is that every day when you leave work, let's say you're working on 1 or 2 or 3 projects, you can write down by hand or just in an Excel spreadsheet. Summarize your work for each of the projects with 1 sentence every day. Train that every day. 1 sentence per project. At the end of the week, 1 sentence per project as a summary. It's difficult, but train it. You have to train. It doesn't have to be something very formal that you're doing. You can just do it for yourself. But this is one way to get better at that, to get from the level detail to the overview detail. And I come to that, I was telling you that, because I will come now to the platinum rule that we saw before. You had just seen platinum rule as question number 6 from the exercise about understanding your audience. And it is like this: communicate to your audience the way they want to be communicated to. So it means use the communication pattern that they use in a specific situation. So if you think about these 2 communication patterns that we just saw, overview and details, you go back to the exercise about understanding your audience. You go to question number 6, where you wrote platinum rule, and you will write whether overview or details. What is it you think in that specific situation does your audience want to have? How do they tick? Do they take more overview? Do they take more detail? There are other communication patterns. These are only two. There are other ones that we can discover. We don't have the time today, but I will let you know later on how you can learn about them. So when I work with clients, I use a communication model that also takes into account your mindset. And this is like overarching over the relationship, over the content. Because with that, I want to say that you can influence the room. You can change the vibe that you bring to your room. And the goal with that is first to establish a connection with yourself, to realize, oh, I'm really nervous before my presentation because I have bad news to tell people. So at least when you realize you're nervous, you can do something to help yourself. You want to establish a connection, of course, with your audience. And if you come in a meeting very negative, not looking at everybody, you're not gonna be able to establish that connection. So you want, of course, to establish also a connection with your topic and between your audience and your topic. And to do that, you know, you may want to be constructive, to be positive, to be open. You know, maybe you're going to bring bad news and you're thinking, okay, I'm bringing solutions to the table, but I will also be open to other people's suggestions. So this is going to be a different meeting than if you say, only my suggestions are the best one. How can you do that? How can you influence the room? How can you influence yourself to feel better, let's say? Maybe you already have tricks. You go out for a run during lunch break, or you go to the gym, or you listen to music, or you just take a break to prepare yourself, have a nice coffee. But you can also do that. This is one of my tricks. This is in the preparation. You do big eyes like this, not in the meeting, but before. So because when you do big eyes, you feel kind of a little bit happier, don't you? So this is a trick before the meeting. Or you can take a power pose, you know, like stretch, you know, feel strong in your body. Maybe you saw the TED Talk of Amy Poehler, who is talking about power poses and how they can influence how we feel and can even influence our results in the things that we do. Some of our work was criticized, I have to say that, but I do believe that the body influences the mind. So this was a lot of information for a 1-hour conversation together with you. And it's too short to teach you everything that I could teach you to bring your work to the next level of success. Communication is a lifelong process. And the fun thing is every time you learn something new, it's beneficial for your work, of course, because this is what I have been talking about, but it's also beneficial in all aspects of your life, with your family, with your friends, at the gym, on the train, with authorities, with all the people you have relationships with or have to have relationships with. And there are always people who want to dig deeper into a topic, and I guess that many of you belong to that group. That's why I created a training course that is tailor-made for you as actuaries who want to communicate effectively so that you can bring your work to the next level of success. And I can be your partner on that journey. The course is called Actuaries on Stage and on Screen, and it is said so that it's a 12-hour course, interactive training. It is split in 4 different modules. So each module is about lasts 3 hours, and they usually take place on different days so that you have time to rest in between. And I think with the 3 hours, we can maximize your attention span so you can learn at your best. We cover and we train specific communication topics like communication patterns, models, types of behavior and learning, verbal, nonverbal, written communication. We also train presentation skills and negotiation and discussion. You have the opportunity in the training to apply the theory right away with interactive exercises, and the exercises, they are tailor-made for you as actuaries and for the situation that you encounter. I work in small groups of 6 to 12 participants so that each participant can practice and can take the stage or the screen. And with that, I mean that everybody is closely involved, so nobody can disappear in the crowd. At the same time, I make sure that I create a safe space for everybody to practice, to give and to receive constructive feedback, and also to make mistakes. Because this is how, with practice, this is how you can become a master. Now, maybe you're thinking, well, Carolyn, it sounds really interesting, but you know, I'm an introvert and I'm rather shy. I will say to you, this is the perfect course, the perfect opportunity for you to dare to get out of your comfort zone. Respectfully, trustfully, and with my support and with the support of the group. As Nike says, you can do it. And the goal is not to make an extrovert out of you. The goal is to give you the best tools to communicate effectively, all the while you're still being you. And it's the same thing for extroverts. So it doesn't matter whether introvert, extroverts. Maybe you've been struggling to find the right words. Maybe you have problems to structure your thoughts, ideas, to summarize them. Maybe it's difficult to find a common understanding with non-actuaries. Maybe you realize you're not listened to, or your ideas are not heard. You don't dare to take the word during a meeting, and you don't even want to think about making presentation. But don't worry, it's probably that you don't have the skills. You haven't learned that. You don't know the tools to solve these problems yet. So consider this, what I've spoken before. You only have 7 seconds to make an initial impact. Using actuarial jargon can confuse your audience if they have an actuarial knowledge of too. Poor communication will damage your negotiation because you will not understand each other. A lack of clarity will lead to a lack of understanding. And communicating too many details can lead to misunderstanding. As I said in my instruction, as it was said in my introduction, I love to see people grow and thrive. Your success is my priority. And if you're still here today at 5:15, it's because you have the motivation for more. If we work together, my success will be measured. Your success will be measured by how good I am in what I do. If you are interested in an opportunity for a collaboration, there is a possibility for you to participate to my training, to my training course that is set on some specific dates and times that you can look at on my website. You can also book directly from there. Another possibility, if you are 6 to 12 people at your company or in your team, and you are interested to also do the training course as a group, we can look and choose specific dates and times that will fit you and your organization. So you have more flexibility there, and you can also have more flexibility on the topics. Another possibility is to work on a one-on-one, to do some individual coaching. It can be on your communication skills, on your leadership skills. It can be about your strategy or the cultural items that you see in your company. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, or to write me an email, or to use the chat box if you have specific question, or you can leave your contact detail so that we can continue this conversation. I want to thank you for your time and for your attention, and I wish you the best of the success that you so much deserve. It would be great to meet, whether to get to know each other, and maybe to meet even in person one day, but we can get to learn better, to learn each other better, whether on a video call or a normal telephone call, it still exists, or during a training, or during a coaching. So don't forget here, the key to your success is effective communication. So plan it instead of leaving it to chance. I wish you all the best. And now I will look at your question. I was so busy with all the content that I wanted to give to you that I will take some time to read them. Maybe YY, you can help me as well here.
Sure. Shall we start with
I think the first question is about the thing about the eyes and the line. I mean, with that, with your eye line, first, you always look in the camera. This was one thing. And also, if you think about the frame that you see, and you split it in three parts, in 3/3. There's a line between the first third and the second third, and your eyes should kind of be on that line. Even if I move, I should try to keep it on that line. It's an indication. I have another question. I find that conversations go better when people reciprocate with video. However, people are reluctant to. How can I encourage them to turn on cameras? I think this will, in the end, maybe become a problem. I've seen that also many times, that people think, oh, I can do other work at the same time, you know, when people don't see me. And I think that you can tell them, look, if we had a meeting in person, you know, we would see each other, and I wish to see you. I wish to have a contact with you. So I think you can, I suggest you say it open. Please turn on your camera for everybody. Ah, now I like that. How do you manage talking into the void like you are right now without any clues from others? Oh, I don't really know how I do that. This is a really interesting question, because this is different from one culture to another one. You know, I think in Asia, when somebody talks, somebody is speaking, stops speaking, there's a little void, and then the other, maybe after 2 seconds, the other one starts speaking. And Southern Europe, or even in North America, somebody speaks, the person is not finished, the other one starts. You just have to hold the moment. This is my advice to you. Just hold the moment. Just be there. Just wait. And I would like to ask you a question. Do you listen because you prepare your answer, or do you listen because you really want to understand? So just test, just be uncomfortable. Sometimes leave a long void, just be uncomfortable, test it. So the next question is, do you think that professional guidelines and actuarial codes make providing summaries very difficult? In UK, need to mention compliance with particular principles. I agree with that. I really agree. I used to do a lot of reporting when I was working at Hanover, and I found it difficult because sometimes I would have liked to summarize the information in another way, but all these Solvency II and all these guidelines and codes, they require so many information, almost too much detailed information. One thing that I always thought we should try to do, but it's usually a matter of resource and of time. It's when you send this big report to the board, because it's, I don't know, one Solvency II report, that you yourself, you take the initiative, especially for your board, to write a summary. It's a matter of resource and of time. But maybe once you have, you know, your process are streamlined and so on, you can do this a little bit. Maybe you can do this quite quickly, because it's important that in your company, people have a clear picture of where it's going. And sometimes I find that in the big reports, Solvency II and Co, you don't get the big picture. It's only details. So I agree with that.
Next question.
Next question is, what if there is an audience who wants details and then another one wants overview? One thing you can do, it will maybe depend on, I will say, the titles of the persons. If it's the CEO wants to have an overview, but the CFO thinks I want to have detail, one thing you can do is in your presentation, you can start with the overview, you can start with the summary, and you can always later on go to some level of details, or you can put the details or all the details in an appendix. How to find that moment in the meeting to speak up and share your opinion, especially when that pause is not available. When you're not used that people speak over each other, it's difficult. You have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to just jump in. And almost with your whole body. So you have to train that. You have to train that. You have to train that. Train it for fun with some colleagues. Maybe they won't like it to start with, but it's training again. Another one. Thank you, Carolyn. Lots to think about. And another one is it possible to be both likable and credible? Of course. I hope I was. It's possible. When I talked about credible and likable, it's pretty much when I think about the first impression, because this is how people scan us, the two criteria. So you can be like this. You can maybe later on be a little bit nicer on the first meeting, a little bit not so still, not so stiff. This is how you can play with that. And the thing is, when it's been a while, you've been working with people, when you've known people for a long time, they know who you are, then you're more natural. You know, you can be both likable and credible, of course. It's especially for the first time, for the first impression, that you need to be aware of that. Maybe you want to start like this and in the end be a little bit more relaxed. Maybe you have to stay the whole time tough, you know, or still. Or the other way around, you're very friendly at the beginning, and then later on you have to be more chill, more stiff. The next question, how do you deal with cultural nuances when you present to an audience from a different culture, a different country? I prepare myself, I do some research before. I look on the internet for sure. I ask people who have already been there if I know some people, and I didn't do it today because I've been in Asia a few times, so I just assumed that I knew a little bit about how it is in Singapore, but sometimes I speak it openly. And I said, I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable here. I just want to make people comfortable. And if there's any expressions that I say that offend you or whatever, you have to tell me, because I don't do this on purpose. Just be open and speak about that. So there are no questions anymore.
Yeah, looks like it. So, thank you so much, Caroline, for all the fascinating tips and useful sharing. I will definitely remember the platinum rule for a long, long time. Communicate to your audience the way they want to be communicated to. Thanks so much. But before we end the session, let us do one last poll to feedback to Caroline and also today's session. We still have some time, so feel free to keep your Q&A coming in. Looks like everybody enjoyed your session.
I'm happy.
So just a reminder that this talk has actually been recorded. So the presentation materials and video recording will be posted on the SAS website in about a week's time. So keep a lookout for that. So just in case you miss any important parts or you want to review certain tips that Caroline has shared, you can easily do so through the website in a week's time. Yeah, we have more than half the audience giving you an excellent grade. So thank you so much.
You're making my day. Starting here in Portugal.
Okay.
Thank you very much, everybody.
I guess we don't have to
and all the best.
Thank you so much, everybody. I hope everybody enjoyed the session. I definitely have enjoyed myself and learned a lot of useful tips. Thank you, everyone. I hope everyone has a good weekend ahead. Bye.
Bye-bye.